Hello everyone, and welcome to Dark Souls Part 32. How's it going? I guess I'll do a thing for you. There. Are you happy? Are you happy now? Alright, let's see if I can actually get through this today. The other day, the dogs wouldn't stop running their fucking mouths, so I wasn't able to get through this because they kept going right up against the fucking window and barking as loud as they fucking could. Still don't know what the hell they thought that they were barking at, but... Anyways, that's enough of that. A couple of notes before we get started. First of all the way back in time, I guess I'll point somewhere. Yeah. Well, no, time's up there, isn't it? Yeah. Alright, all the way back in time. Forward in time, actually. All the way forward in time. I guess back in time would be down. Back in time's that way. Yeah, probably. In hell. Isn't that true? Okay. But back in, back in the present day, from where we're from, if you do not summon Dusk, yes, I know, I'm going to be doing this again. I'm not going to go too much into it. But if you do not summon Dusk, then her corpse will not be there. I realized this myself whenever I was going through on another character, because I decided, yeah, I'll test this and see what's going on. If you don't summon her, then her corpse will never show up. So you can rescue her from that golem, and she'll pop out, and she'll be all happy, and she'll go back in time and tell Elizabeth all about you. But for some reason, until you actually summon her, she won't go over to where the golem is and either die or kill herself or be killed. Why? Who knows? Who knows? Thank you, Miyazaki. Oh, Miyazaki, Miyazaki, Miyazaki. Alright. But that's that. Secondly, yes, I know what a manticore is, guys. Why did you guys get so obsessed about that? For one, this is about the sanctuary guardian that we fought in the last episode. The big lion with multiple wings that has a scorpion tail. Actually, that's not even a manticore. A manticore is that, except it has the head of a human being, and instead of angel wings, it has bat wings. So even with you guys being pedantic and correcting me about that, that's not even true. So, congratulations, I guess. And even in the context of it, like, even if it was the same design, I was asking about Oolacile, like the Oolacilians. Like, what the hell is this in regards to Oolacile? I mean, are you suggesting that Dusk went to ancient Persia in the real world and then bought some manticores and brought them back? Is that what you're suggesting? If not, then why even bring it up? I don't know, you guys kind of confuse me sometimes as to what exactly your motivations are. Actually, no, I think it's just that by the nature of me and my own playthrough, people really love being able to be right about something, sort of like I do in a way. So just being able to jump in and go, no, it's this, stupid, is very appealing. But it's sort of like if you went to see the new Star Wars movie and, like, we looked over and, on Tatooine, there's, like, Marvelous Chester. You know, this guy right here. He's just, like, in the bar he's in the cantina or something. And I point up at the screen and go, what the hell is that doing there? Who is that? And one of my fans just so happens to be there and says, it's Marvelous Chester, stupid. Didn't you know that? And I have to turn and be like, yes, I know who it is. But why is he there? Just to get the answer of, oh. I don't know. That's the magic of being me, I guess. Alright, before I go into the fog, just keep in mind, I'm not going to talk over the cutscene, but I wanted to point out, this is going to be one of the 4 Knights of Lord Gwyn. We've only encountered one in the base game, and that was Ornstein. Aside from him, there is no mention anywhere else about any of the other knights, other than just referencing Artorias. We never actually see them in the base game anywhere else. So actually getting to the DLC and seeing all 3 of the other ones was pretty amazing. But this is going to be a Demon Souls reference, of course, which is magnificent. Miyazaki loves references, as we all know. Let's get this over with. Oh, my hat kind of looks like a little quail. Aw, he was so cute, too. Dramatic. And there's the guy that he just threw. Penetrator reference. Yes, I get it, Miyazaki. I definitely get it. Okay, let's show off Artorias a little bit here. But yeah, isn't it unusual that... I mean, I get the reference. But, weird thing about it is that, they show the guy, the little guy that he just got through throwing over there. They show him, but they don't really give him enough time like, the Fat Minister was given in Demon Souls, where you're kind of expecting, oh, this guy's gonna be a boss? Sort of like that thing. Like, we have yet to actually see one of those yet. So you think that they would try to do like a Demon Souls thing again, where they trick you into thinking that this is going to be the boss, but no, it just straight up is just like, oh shit, Artorias! He's gonna fuck my ass! And then Artorias fucks his ass. And then that's the end of it. Anyways, this is Artorias. Some people say that this is it may be the best fight in all of the Souls games. Some people say that. I'm not overly fond of it for a few reasons. Yes, I'm going to complain about the best fight in the series, blah, blah, blah. One, just take a look at this. Just him jumping up in there, doing a little anime move. So you can probably get the idea of why even, you know, thematically... I hate that fucking shit. It's not my favorite thing in the world. Are you gonna jump? Just gonna scream? Gonna jump? There you go. Another thing about it, this kind of goes hand in hand with all of the bosses in all of the games, is that I don't really like it whenever you're not able to get off like a full combo on bosses. Like you're not able to do your own thing. And the boss kind of turns into a special little princess show where they get to do all these fancy moves. And then you get an opening of like 1 second where you're able to hit them one time. And then they go through their special little princess dance for the next 5 minutes. Which is kind of how Artorias is. Because as you can see, he attacks, and he just keeps attacking, and you barely get any time in order to get even a single attack in, so that you can do just a little bit of damage, and then he goes right back into attacking. And he has a shitload of poise, so you can't really break him that easily. So this really is, even though it's a fight against not Artorias, it's kind of the Artorias show, and you just so happen to be here. One of the problems of having these big flourishing anime enemies. But as you can see, you can kind of really trivialize the fight for the most part by just bringing a shield. The more stability, the better. That's probably the easiest way to deal with him, I guess. You can dodge him. Let's see if it... Actually, hold on. Come on. Do something. Oh, now you want to do something. You want to read my inputs? That's cute. But you can dodge him, but the... Come on. There you go. But as you can see, like, even if I was ninja flipping, you kind of, because he's so mobile and he's flipping around all over the place. There he goes. He goes through this, like, probably 3 times during a fight if you let him. But that powers him up and allows him to do more damage. But even if you do that, then he has the tendency to, kind of reposition himself a little bit too easily, which makes it kind of difficult to approach him, and ends up allowing you to only get in that 1 extra hit that you would have gotten in anyways if you were using, say, a shield or something. But yeah, those are kind of multiple ways of fighting him. It's not like this is a bad fight or anything. I just don't have the multiple orgasms that most people seem to have about it. But he has a neat design. I always appreciate it in the Souls games whenever enemies actually get sort of some color to them. Because it's really easy, just for the sake of, well, everything's in decay, to just, like, you can almost get in 2 hits, but he rolls away so quickly that even then you can't really do it. It's really easy as far as designs go to just say, well, everything's decayed, so let's make everything gray and brown. And turn it to, there he goes again. You can't get in, like, 1 hit on him whenever he's doing that, but who cares? If you're standing too close to him, then he'll just AoE shock you away from him, and it does quite a bit of damage, so... Damn it, it's that shit. I hate the fact that you don't get really enough recovery on it to be able to do anything to him. And if you stand too close to him on his backside, he throws shit at you. Anyways, as far as the like storyline and thematics of all this go, you can see that he is being absolutely consumed with something dark, some sort of dark energy. And obviously, he is only using 1 arm. He's not using his offhand. And Dark Souls 2 gets a little bit heavy-handed with this, and just straight up just includes his sword in one of the updates, and tries to claim that everyone that has ever used it has been left-handed, which isn't necessarily true with Artorias. But could be. It could be. But it is interesting that whatever, like, he's going through these states, but it doesn't actually look like he's being consumed by it. It almost looks more like he's actively... Oh, really? Like he's actively attempting to use it. Like he's powering himself up. He's allowing the dark that's consuming him to take over his being. One of the things that Marvelous Chester said in the prior part was that he was a colorless sword, which you can take the mean as being sort of a dumb joke about it being him being consumed by the dark. But as some people pointed out, there is sort of an old-fashioned way of referring to someone being of ill humor or having little personality as being colorless. That is to say, if someone is colorful, then, you know, they have a lot of personality. Whereas if someone is colorless, that just means that they're kind of just straight. They're a straight man. Which usually, whenever you don't see Artorias really ever depicted outside of what he is now. But usually, even in like fan art, people kind of depict him as being the straight man, which he kind of has that appearance. But he could also just be referring to this, like the dark has consumed him to the point that he's sort of lost his own soul in a way. And yes, it's a special little Princess Artorias show. We get it. That anime flip. Okay, get that out of your system. That the dark is consumed him to the point that he has kind of lost his own mind. That's what Marvelous Chester was referring to. Who can say, really? By the way, he is obviously not himself. And he is very angry. But the good thing about the little opening, even though as far as it being a lead-in and tricking the player into wondering what exactly it is that they're going to be fighting, a la the Fat Ministers. Other than that, it is good to depict him destroying one of those things, because it makes it very obvious what he's doing. Like, he's still... Hold on. Artorias, sweetie. He's still on the hunt to try to kill these things. I don't think he likes that I'm ignoring him. But he's actively still trying to destroy these things. Even though we haven't seen them yet, so we really haven't established what it is exactly that he's doing. So he is still sort of himself, but obviously, you know, not himself. I was thinking, even though I was using a great shield, you notice that let's see if I can get him to do it again. That it almost completely depletes my stamina. Like if I was using a normal shield, that would not have worked. And what exactly he's throwing out... I was trying to get him to do it, but... What exactly he's throwing out from himself is not clear. It's some sort of goo. Which is important to note just because it does make it clear that the dark that is infesting him does have like a manifested physical substance to it. Which you can also see all around the ground. Like it's implied that the stuff that's all around here is stuff that he is actually leaving behind him. His trail of urine or sweat or whatever exactly this is. It's not clear what exactly this stuff is, other than it's just abyssal in nature. There we go, that's what I wanted to see. Look at all that completely inconspicuous viscous material that he's leaving behind. He's really enjoying this fight, isn't he? But yeah, fantastic design. One little less thing I wanted to point out. Look at the top of his head. His helmet has that. His helmet is a little bit weird because it kind of almost looks like he's kind of a bird person or something because his head is so high up. But now his actual face is right under the little beaked. I can't. The visor. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's under that exactly, which kind of makes him look even more hollow, which is pretty fitting actually. But the very top of his head does have that little stained. What probably used to be a bright blue, whatever the hell those things are called. But little furry, cute little feathery thing. That's what I'll call it. And now it has been completely stained black. And it looks like it's so viscous, that stuff is so viscous that it's kind of tightly wound it together to the point that it's just kind of this big, straight, kind of globbed up mess of hair, in a way. But I just wanted to point that out because we're going to see that in a bit. After I finish him off. So long, sweetie. Victory achieved. Aren't I cool? Okay, but he did kind of just vanish into nothing. For the context of, you know, it's a video game. But we'll be seeing a little bit more of that in a bit. And I can't remember if this is considered a key item or just a generic consumable. I don't think it is a generic consumable. It's... No, surely not. It's not going to be in the key items, is it? No, I'm just missing it. I love it when I do this shit, don't you? Soul of Artorias. Here we go. Soul of Artorias. Soul of Lord Gwyn's knight Artorias, who was consumed by the Abyss. The legend that Artorias repelled the Abyss only told half of the story. It seems that he was defeated, and his honor preserved, by some unsung hero who was the true victor over the Abyss. Who could this be referring to? It's kind of funny, it's not like this is written down. So this is actually like the player looking at it himself. So I guess he's the one that's actually telling us this. Yeah, it seems that he was defeated, and his honor preserved, even though it wasn't actually him, by an unsung hero who will be the true victor over the Abyss. Kind of getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we? Alright. Let's move on. I'm not going to do anything with that just yet. Let's go into the biggest PvP hotspot in PC Dark Souls. Each console kind of has its own community, and the PC is sort of oriented here for the most part, although it's active everywhere, of course. And it seems like Xbox is more... probably the forest, I guess. And PS4, I can't remember, but each one, like, there's different levels of activity across each platform. So it's different experiences. Let's... No, I'm not going to do that just yet, because since I have I should turn that off, but I have 19 nodes right now, as you can see from PvP Watchdog up there. Let's hit F9 and get rid of that. So if I became human, I most undoubtedly would be instantly invaded by just all sorts of badasses. They really want me dead. This is the... oh lord, this is gonna get messy. This is the Battle of Stoicism Gazebo. This is their very early attempt at doing sort of a... like a blood arena from Dark Souls 2 or something like that. It didn't work. It did not work particularly well, and here's Oscar leaving us more messages. These are developer messages, but I like to think that Oscar somehow managed to work his way down here, which makes no sense. But yeah, there's just different kinds of fights that you can go through. The Plaque of Legends. I can't wait to see all the cheaters here. We'll see how many there are. A streak of... surely it's... oh, just 10, really? Huh, that's actually reasonable. Maybe it's because the Steam profile stuff got updated. I'm used to seeing, like, streak 1 billion or something. Oh well. At least we have cheaters in the form of dumb names. Although you can do that easily in Steam. I'm a little disappointed by that. I was hoping for something even more idiotic. Oh well, but that's that. There's really not much to say about this. As far as the context of the lore, I have really not given this any thought at all. Like, why would the Oolacilians build this in the first place? The answer is that they just wanted a PvP thing for the DLC whenever it came out, so this is what they attempted. This kind of it did kind of die off because no one... it's one of those things... the arena is kind of weird in that... like, if you go stand out there, like, that's the place that people actually use. They don't use this. They use that little bitty area next to the bonfire. Because it's easily accessible. And if you're bored and, you know, you want to run around and kill things, you can kill things. Whereas this, let's go into one of these. You go there, and then you show up in the waiting area, and that's it. Like, that's all you do. And the moment that you enter the arena, this is why I came here, is just to get the Purple Coward's Crystal. And there might be someone somewhere idling here waiting for someone to join, but I kind of doubt it. Yeah, you can kind of run around in here, and that's all you can do. I guess I'll run around here briefly and remain put. Hey, stay still. No, I refuse. I refuse. But there's not much to say about this region. I'm pretty sure that everything around here is just... Are there any buildings, anything? No, just trees, mountains, more trees and mountains. This tower, is it even a tower? It does lead down to something, but... And I think that might be the actual arena that you fight in. But yeah, there's nothing out here. I will point out that the actual construction of this place, implying that this is something the Oolacilians built. The construction of this place is very, very similar to what you will find in Sin's Fortress. Like, it looks almost exactly the same as it does outside. So if there is any lore whatsoever to be gotten from this poor, miserable, forgotten area, I guess it is that, is that maybe the Oolacilians were somehow related to, whoever constructed Sin's Fortress, but we'll get into much later, too. There's a lot to go over in regards to the timeline. No damage taken at the start of that auto rematch immediately after falling from trapdoor. So yeah, after the thing starts and you just go through the little trapdoor and the fight begins. Yep, that's it. It is interesting that the little bonfire here is blue. Not a lot to say about that, I guess. It's just cute because it's PvP related. Maybe they'll include something like this again in Dark Souls 3. Kind of doubt it in a way. It is a shame that it did kind of take off at the beginning, but it's one of those things that people only kind of use it these days for organizing very specific events, and that's pretty much it. And it seems like none of these lead to... I don't know, I can't quite remember. Let's just go quickly to one of these things, and I'll read the Purple Coward's Crystal, and then we'll move on. But I can't remember if you actually warp... Because it's been a long-ass time since I've done this. Nah, it just straight up just leads you back to the same place. Yeah. It seems like each one of these... It seems like it's actually the same map. Except each one of these is just... Like, this is... Let's see, dual... Well, let's go to a different one. I thought this is the one that I went to, but maybe not. Let's see if it leads to any place else. No, same exact place. Maybe I was just misremembering, or remembering too clearly, who knows. Anyways, that's that. Let's look at the Purple Coward's Crystal, and then we'll move on. It is interesting that this is here, but, yeah, didn't quite work the way that they thought it was going to. Purple's Coward's Crystal... That's way up here. Okay. But it is something for exiting the battle of Stoicism specifically. I don't know why they felt they had to add this. They could have easily had, Well, no, I guess I take that back. Like, you don't want people using, like a dark sign or something. And the Black Separation Crystal is really only for banishing, summonables. So I guess this kind of makes sense, although you could have just updated this thing's functionality. But, whatever. Purple Coward's Crystal. Victory in this battle once led to ancient Anor Londo. Oh, so that's what it did. But even in the absence of its overseer, capitulation is a disgrace. In the name of a warrior's honor, do not quickly resort to use of this crystal. So at some point in history, I guess this is the only explanation that we're going to get for this. Notice it says even in the absence of its overseer. So at some point in history, it seems like Anor Londo was linked to Oolacile, and if you actually wanted to go to Anor Londo, for whatever reason, to be honored, then you fought here for glory, and the victor would be taken to Anor Londo proper to hold audience with the gods, perhaps. And that's the best guess that I can wager. So that does sort of imply that humans did not live in Anor Londo itself during this time period. So that's as close as we're going to get to an answer in regards to that. And that guy's corpse over there, it just stays there for the rest of time. Good for him. But I wanted to point out Artorias' little thing that he had on top of his head, whatever the hell that thing is called, that I can't quite remember. Sort of, I don't know, it's like a heraldric... I don't know, I'm going to attempt. But there it is, all coiled up and looking all nasty. Fantastic. What exactly is this, anyways? It almost looks like a face. Like that's an angry nose and mouth. But, this appears to be like a sun emblem. and some just generic flowering things going on there. Which sort of reminds me of some of the things that we saw in Adelanto. It seems like a... Well, that and the undead chapel also had kind of just these generic little swirly leaf and thing patterns, and it has that kind of thing going on for it. But it is weird that it's just a collapsed, broken up tombstone. It's probably not even a tombstone. But it seems like Kieran here, this is who this is. This is Kieran. That she apparently found this, or maybe brought it from somewhere. And that's how it made its way here. I'm not sure what exactly it's supposed to implied to be exactly, though. It may be something that she just peeled off the sides. Like, look at that, the sun emblem and all that. Let's go over here and take a look at this. It does appear to be this. Yeah, okay, it is exactly the same. Because take a look at this. The same exact sun emblem right here, and the same exact emblem leading up. So it's a section of one of these things. I wonder if I can actually find that. It doesn't appear that any of these are broken off. No, none of these are actually broken off. So where exactly she got this, I don't know, but it is just some generic emblem stuff that she got from somewhere off of the ruins and erected here as a little miniature memorial, which is kind of sad. Like, she doesn't have the capability of making something proper, so this is the best that she can do. Just visiting the place where he was finally put down and laying the only thing that she has left of him down here next to just a pile of rubble. So for the time being, this is the best Artorias is going to get in regards to a grave. Of course, later on, whenever we get to the area where we have to fight Sif, that, by the way, I wanted to point this out, that is a cenotaph. A cenotaph is a grave that doesn't have anything inside of it. That is meant to represent the grave of someone that has been lost, but their body could not be recovered for any reason. So that area back there by the Sanctuary Guardian, that's eventually going to become the boss arena for Sif. It's not, again, that's not this area, even though it looks very similar, and you'd think it would be the same thing. It's actually that over there by the Sanctuary Guardian. We cannot reach this place in our time. But that ends up becoming a cenotaph area. This is a very nice particle effect, by the way. The sun is streaming down, and it is interesting that the sun is still shining in this area. Like, there is no obvious star in the sky. I need to actually make a mental note of that as we proceed, and see if I can actually ever look up and see if there's a physical sun in the sky or not. Because I don't think that there is. Because again, in Dark Souls, how light works, like it does, like we're not on a planet that's orbiting a sun exactly. Maybe we are, but like whenever we dispel the illusion of Anorlando, for example, it just vanishes. Like, it's like it was never there in the first place. And of course, as we've been over before, like, the world that we're in now kind of doesn't exist. It's sitting on top of the arch trees, and it's just kind of in its own dimension. It's bizarre. So the sun kind of maybe doesn't even really exist, and the thing that we're seeing there, the light that's streaming down from the rafters, may in fact just be the latent power of Lord Gwyn, for example. But anyways, fairly interesting. Let's take a look at Kieran's physical design for a bit. Let's look at her butt. Show me your butt. She does have a little extends all the way down to her butt, yeah. Little spine, pretty interesting. It is almost kind of implied that she's wary of being backstabbed if their armor was designed this way. But this is Kieran that oh, really? You gave her heels? I never noticed that. High heels? Really? That's fucking stupid. You don't give a fighter high heels. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. She has an eye on the back of her head. I wanted to be sure to show that. And the hair that's actually extending back, it may be her own hair, it may not. The description of the armor that we're going to be getting later, I don't know, kind of, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a mess as far as trying to explain away, but it could be her hair, maybe not. Yeah, her physical design is pretty neat. It's unfortunate that her armor isn't any better than it is. Like, one of the big things with Dark Souls is that poise is very, very important. And her armor does not have any poise, as I recall. None at all, so wearing it, kind of fruitless. Yeah. But as far as her assassination, like her role as an assassin goes, we're not going to fight her. At least not yet, anyways. I don't think maybe I won't even do that during this playthrough. I'm not sure yet. But she does have these kind of sharpened claw things on her arms. The Silver Knights of Anor Londo kind of have a similar thing going on, and Artorias' armor also kind of has the same thing going on. Whether or not that's just that's just an armor thing, or whether or not the gods themselves are kind of hinted to have big talon fingers or not, I kind of doubt that they have big talon fingers, but I guess you can look at it that way. But other than that, I don't think there's anything overly significant to point out about her. Her weird spiral ears on the side. The way that her cloth is kind of layered is pretty interesting. And the fact that she is dressed in blue, just like Artoria, seems to insinuate that maybe that was a common theme. It would have been nice to see Ornstein also dressed in blue, but we didn't. But either way, I guess it is kind of fitting because it does sort of establish a relationship between Kiran here and Artorias. Let's talk to her.
You? Is that not the soul of the man who fell on this spot? He was a dear friend. I wish to pay proper respect with that soul. Would you be willing to part with it?
So she wants me to... Kiran here wants... Is she even... It seems like her name's not even mentioned. No, it is. It is. What am I talking about? But she wants to reclaim the soul of what's kind of insinuated to be her lover. Or someone that she at least cared deeply for. If you give over his soul, you lose the ability to use it to make stuff. You can keep it, in which case you can make stuff, but that means that the only way of actually getting the things that she will give you is to straight up just murder her. And the soul of Artorias does make multiple things, which makes it even more difficult, because then you have to either dupe them, cheat, you just have to straight up cheat, or you have to do multiple playthroughs in order to get all of them, if you're a collector like I am. So it's a big nuisance. It's one of those things. It's one of the things I really don't like about Souls games, where they try to force you to choose between two different things. Like, I want to have all of them. It doesn't matter. I won't even use it. Like, the sword that you can get from... there's actually two swords. There's two variants of it that you can get from his soul. Both of them are pretty much worthless. Even if you make a high-level build specifically made to use it, it's still pretty shitty. So, it's just kind of shitty on the part of the developers, I guess, to try to force you into this decision. Although I guess it makes it easy, because we don't have to worry about it, because the weapon itself is pretty garbage. But I still need to show it off and look at its description and things, so I'll end up having to cheat it in for the sake of this playthrough so we can talk about it in part 33. Anyways, let's hand this over to her, and that should give us a few more things.
Thank you. You are very kind.
And long-winded, yes.
I no longer need it.
So she gives us both of her weapons. After the death of Artorias, this apparently has... Internally, this has done something to her. And she has decided that she no longer wishes to fight, or her purpose in life is not to fight. There's two ways of looking at it. Either she is so distraught that she is giving up her own life, or it's possible that she was here for the sake of tracking him down and killing him in the first place, putting a stop to whatever was going on with him. In which case, she wouldn't need the weapons anymore. So that's two ways of looking at it. There's probably a third way that I can't really think of off the top of my head. There's a lot of ways to look at it in regards to her motivations, but it is pretty interesting. It is pretty clear, though, that she cares deeply about Artorias. It is interesting that she never goes looking for Sif, though.
May the Lord guide thee.
The Lord referring to, I'm imagining, Lord Gwyn. It could be that she's saying that just because we are human. But it could also mean that she actually does believe quite vehemently that Lord Gwyn is who he claims to be. It is interesting that she says, let the Lord guide thee. She doesn't actually specify Gwyn, but it seems to be implied. I guess it is possible that she is keeping up the lie. Like, they're not actually going to come out and straight up admit to a human, of all things, that, yeah, Gwen is no longer, like, he no longer exists. So if Gwen has kindled the first flame already, which is what we're going to be getting into here in a bit, it is possible that they're just straight up just lying about it to preserve the myth that they kind of operate under. Or it is possible that he still exists, and that has not happened yet. And that's a whole other thing we're going to get into a bit, and that's going to take up the majority of the rest of this episode. Sorry. But it is, I guess, also possible that she could be referring to someone else, although I kind of doubt it. Like, referring to Gwendolyn or something, but again, I sincerely doubt that. One last thing to note in regards to her, it is quite interesting that she is so tiny. She's so tiny and kawaii. Let's see if I can actually hold on. No, talk options too. God damn it, come on. There we go. That's probably as close as I'm going to be able to get. Let's go into prayer stance. Probably the closest that we're going to get. So she's kind of... It doesn't really look... I don't think she's really... She uses the player model. Like, she uses the player models, how this actually works. I forget what exactly she looks like under her mask, but it's kind of... Well, she's human in terms of player models. So she's going to be the same height that we are. And I just wanted to point that out because the gods are not all giants. Like, Ornstein was pretty fucking huge. Artorias that we just fought was pretty fucking huge. Gog, obviously, or Gog, or however you want to pronounce his name. He is a giant, so he doesn't really count in this case. Smough, obviously, was very, very big. But he consumed a lot of humanity, so that's kind of the explanation for how he got so fucking huge in the first place. And, are there any other gods that we run into? I'm sure that there are, but I can't think of offhand. Like the, Vamos down below, which is sort of implied to have, at some point, maybe have been a god, perhaps. He's kind of our size, though. Gwendolyn, who we'll be encountering later on, is kind of our size. So yeah, the gods were not all giants. So don't really think that about them. They were, they're pygmy-based just like us. It's just that for some reason, some of them are really big, and some of them are just kind of normal petite size. Like a little cutie pie Kieran here.
May the Lord guide thee.
May the Lord guide thee. Okay, let's take a look at her two weapons. And these are useful weapons. More the gold tracer more than the silver tracer, I think. Oh, it's going to be fun trying to find both of them, because I think they're in different places. Oh, lordy mercy. Well, no. Huh. I seem to remember it being further down. Oh, well. Gold tracer. Curved sword used by the Lord Blade Kieran, one of Lord Gwyn's 4 knights. Kieran brandishes her sword in a mesmerizing dance. That's, again, as I pointed out many times before, you don't fight by dancing. That's ridiculous. You'll get yourself killed from exposing your back. Etching the darkness with dire streaks of gold. It looks like the whole thing is gold to me. And... oh, Lord. Please let it be up here. I'm pretty sure it's a dagger-class weapon. Please, please... Yes! Oh, thank God. Thank God. Dark Silver Tracer. A dark silver dagger used by the Lord's Blade Kieran of Gwyn's 4 knights. The victim is first distracted by dazzling streaks of the gold tracer, then stung by the vicious poison of this dagger. Yeah, the dark silver one is not quite as useful, but the idea is that this is held in the offhand, and the gold tracer is basically just used to sort of put people off their guard, then you use this as an offhand to poison them. Although, again, that's not really how people fight, but, whatever. Video game. And it's especially weird because she's kind of described as being an assassin in the first place. But this is the silver tracer. It does not have the visual flourish that the gold tracer does. R2 is a simple jab. R1 is just, that basic thing. Goes for jab, yeah. Nothing. Okay, nothing special there. And it's the gold tracer, on the other hand, a lot of people in PvP use the gold tracer. A lot of people use the gold tracer because it's probably the best bleed weapon in the entire game. And the thing about bleed is that even if you're using a shield, even if you're not physically taking damage, bleed still builds up. So it's pretty useful in that regard, although it's not like... Shield use, especially on PC, is not overly common. Just because it's kind of considered that ninja flipping is kind of the go-to way of dealing with anyone in PvP, because mobility is so important. Because everything kind of just turns into backstab, backstab, backstab. Yeah, nice and balanced. Look forward to Dark Souls 3 being more of that. Amazing. But this is what it was referring to when it's talking about the flourishing, distracting strikes. Like, even the light it leaves behind is nice and pretty in gold. So this is a pretty useful weapon. It's also very lightweight, so it's very common to see people wearing lots of armor and then using this at the same time, because it does do quite a bit of damage, even, and it seems like even if you hit someone whenever they're in iframes while they're flipping away from you, it still builds up. But I have a problem with bleed is that if the bleed triggers whenever they're in iframes, then it seems like it doesn't count anyways. I don't know. Let's try and get... I used this last episode, though. I'll worry about that. Let's use Silver Knight. Yeah. It's been a while since I've used this. It's nice. Okay. But we're kind of done with that for the time being. You can initiate a fight. I'm kind of considering kicking her just to get her to stand up. I'm kind of considering kicking her. What is with my controller today? It doesn't want to... There you go. Oh, I'll come back later. I'm not going to risk actually murdering her ass. Because I don't want to just piss her off completely. It seems like maybe even if you piss her off, then you can't ask for forgiveness from her or something like that. Surely that's not true, then. I'm probably just making that up. Run over here and grab this real fast. And as you can probably tell, we're not going to get a lot done this episode in terms of progression. But there is a lot to talk about. Not much to talk about in regards to this, though, other than, look down there, there's stuff. And it seems like this... I'm pretty sure that's the path over towards, where we're going to be fighting the big K, Special K, later on. Yeah, okay. There's Shit Valley, with Shit River leading down to a shit fight. Can't wait for that shit. Okay, one of the things I wanted to point out... Wait. I saw it. I saw it for a split second. Okay, it is filtering through. Alright. But there's the sun. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we saw that. But yeah, the sun does exist. It's nice and shiny. I wonder if I can get it to do the same thing that it does in the Berg. It's hard to tell because there's so much illumination. But it looks like this one does not have the same... Oh, wait. It does the same thing. Ah, damn it. I thought I had something. Maybe it does kind of just vanish and it... I think it's like... Because you can see it kind of just growing very slowly. Like, you can kind of still just barely see it. It's so weird. I don't know, it's some video game nonsense about how exactly they're rendering that sun. It's not a physical object, so I imagine it's just illumination source, but the way the lighting works in this game is causing it to vanish in and out of reality or something. It may be an error, it may be intentional, I have no idea. But anyways, I wanted to point out that the statues, all the statues that we're going to be encountering in Oolacile, all are missing their heads. And sort of like these statues that I was talking about in the prior episode, the ones that are supposed to be alluding to humanity back in the sanctuary back there, are also missing their heads in places. But it seems like only the older ones, or the ones that have grown more moss than normal, are ones that have lost their heads. And a couple of people pointed out that over in Japan there is this association with moss being linked to knowledge. Like, if you're growing moss, you're growing wiser. Whereas in the West, it's more of the connotation that if you're growing moss, then you're not being active. You're not doing anything. Is that a female? No, it's just male corpse. Big old thong. Big old thong. Let's look right up in there, by the way. But all these statues have their own... They're all missing heads. And what exactly that is supposed to be implying is not clear. But I did want to at least point out the thematics that are going on in Oolacile. Almost as though someone went through and knocked them all off intentionally. But of course, some people were, it's kind of a question that it's not even really worth addressing, but it's not even really a question, just pointing out that the statues themselves, like there's a model for the one without a head, right? And then there's the model for all the rest of them. So maybe some people are saying, well, maybe it just so happens that some of them could have lost their heads and not had a bunch of moss. Maybe there is no correlation because they only had 2 models. But the thing I would like to point out is, well, why don't you just make 3 models then? It seems like to me that they are trying to imply something. I know they have model limitations and everything, but it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal. So I would like to think that there is some correlation there. And that leads down to death, I am pretty sure. Death. And there's nothing down here but more woods. And you'll notice that this does look very, very similar to the area leading to Darkroot. That's mainly just because this is the same forest. It kind of just extends around and leads back into itself. Now, if I'm quiet, if I'll do it again. Go, I swear. There you go. Scratch that shit. Scratch that shit up. But this is locked for the time being, but this is sort of your little hint that there is something going on inside of this thing. How exactly he got in there, we'll talk more about it later. How exactly he got in there is kind of a mystery. I guess he was helicopter lifted inside of it, because he obviously did not get through the door. But that's something to talk about for the future. We will not be doing that this particular episode. Now, the rest of this episode is going to be spent going into Oolacile? No, not going into Oolacile. It is going to be spent with me talking about the timeline. Yay! Another wasted episode. Oh, I love this series, don't you? I know you do. I know you fucking love this series. By the way, if you time it right, you can jump on this little railing and walk up and down it. It serves no purpose. And you can drop down that if you want to die. If you feel like dying, I guess. But we're not going to be going too deep into Oolacile proper, but I'll kind of just wander around here for a bit. Just to show off kind of this region that we're going to be looking at. It's just covered up in abyss is basically what I'm just showing here. Bunch of shitty abyss. The trees do not grow here. And this is kind of right... I can't really get a good look at it because we're too far in now. But we are kind of right below... Oh, Anor Londo's up there, but we can't quite make it out. You can just barely make out the walls up there. But those are the walls of Anor Londo. Right below here used to be the only thing that was down here. Nice fucking message. The only thing down here is just Oolacile, pretty much. And the surrounding area is just nothing but cliff sides. Like, what's over there, like, this would be Darkroot Garden. And that area leading up, like that right there, I'm pretty sure is, where the, you use the Crest Oratorius to get in and out. And we're going to be talking a bit about that in a second. Some people did point out that maybe the Crest Oratorius was not because he used it, but because it was just named for him. Yeah, that's perfectly legitimate. I think that's an okay way of looking at it. But let's go in here for a second, take a look at our friend here. These are the things we're going to be fighting for the rest of all this time. Because I'm using a great shield, I have so much stability that it's causing it to be propelled backwards. One of the advantages of using a great shield. And one of the reasons why it's kind of OP as shit. But you notice he's wearing pretty little pants, and he has the remnants of cloth, so obviously this used to be somebody. Ooh, large titanite shard. I was hoping he would actually drop one of the headpieces, but I guess that's something that we'll just have to talk about later on. Because again, I'm not going to go too deep into this just yet. But yeah, this is Oolacile proper. Not going to talk too much about it just yet. Alright. Let's talk about timelines. Let's talk about when exactly this takes place. And by the way, if you kind of just idle here for a while, and I'm sure all the people that do PvP in this area know this intimately, but they, of course, are screaming down there. Just ever so often you just hear this blah, and that's them just being crazy weirdos, big old weirdos. And ever so often you'll hear, like, sounds like human screams coming from the distance, which is pretty neat. I love that shit. Fucking love ambient shit like that. But we never encounter any humans, so maybe it's just more crazy bloatheads. Who knows? But you will notice that these are not actually hollows. like the things, like this guy down here, he's not like the things that we've been fighting up until now. He almost just kind of looks normal, like a person whose body has been warped by something. And that's how the Dark Soul sort of manifests itself. That it's actually causing one's body to warp and distort over time because it's linked with physicality. But another thing I'll point out is that this area has bonfires. You might wonder, well, of course it has bonfires. And of course, from a gameplay perspective, stop it, Xbox controller. From a gameplay perspective, of course this area is going to have bonfires. Because, you know, how the hell else would you get through it without bonfires? But in terms of a lore perspective, this is also important. Now, I opened up my little creepy notepad here. And I wrote down all the various things that hint as to when exactly this could be taking place. Because we have gone back in time. This is not forward in time. It is straight up just back in time. That much we do know for certain. But these are all the things that I thought of. 1. Gwyn gave a portion of his soul to the Four Kings so that New Londo would be prosperous to reward the leaders of New Londo. So that happened well before Oolacile showed up, because Gwyn was alive. You know, he had to do that. He had to be alive and sane to be able to give a portion of his soul to the Four Kings. So, that means that New Londo exists right now, and even probably existed well before now. Secondly, Gwyn had not kindled the first flame before New Londo and Oolacile existed. It goes along the lines that same thing. We haven't gotten it yet, but the Great Sword of Artorias says that Artorias hunted dark race and ghosts after being cursed with his covenant with the serpent that he had his dealings with. This is one of the things that I think even Marcus just straight up tries to discount this. Like he says, it's probably just a case of the game retconning itself. Which is, I guess, a valid way of looking at it. Especially with this game. As many times as I've said that Miyazaki kind of just ignores things from time to time. More large Tarnite shards. So that I think that's perfectly valid. But it does straight up say that... It seems to almost be implying that Artorias... That they were trying to link the Abyss with Artorias, and the only way that they could think of that in the base game before the DLC came out was to say that he handled New Londo. So some people say that whenever Oolacile came out, they realized, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. We can make this its own thing, and put people like Artorias in there. So actually referencing New Londo is not important, which is why people say that, hey, it's probably a retcon. Or you can say that he actually did both of those things. Shablamses! And by the way, even though these are a bloat head that you can actually wear, it is kind of grown into their bodies. Drop anything for me, sweeties? No, nothing, of course. Blah, and these guys are a lot of fun to play with, if you can actually get their bodies to ragdoll. Which apparently I can't today. Oh well. So, Artorias, as far as the canon of this game goes, whether you like it or not, he hunted dark race and ghosts. Which seems to imply that he, you know, that what happened after New Londo fell. Maybe not before it was flooded, though. That is important to note. But it is obvious that New Londo had fallen already, in terms of what is canon to this story. Ingward, one of his lines of dialogue says that Artorias crossed the Abyss and annihilated the atrocious dark race. Ingward obviously is really old. He is one of the three keepers that sealed New Londo in the first place. So trying to imply that he didn't exist is just straight up silly. So it is possible that the events in Oolacile happened like a long time ago, and then later on it was sealed, it was flooded, because people got tired of trying to beat the Dark Race back into New Londo. That's a valid way of looking at it, I guess. So that is possible, that the events with Ingward flooding it happened later on. It is possible that New Londo and Oolacile were corrupted for a very long time. Now, the silver pendant that we're going to be getting later on says that one of the ancient treasures, that it is one of the ancient treasures of Anor Londo. And I may not get to that just yet today. Ah! Mistimed it. Hate these fucking things. Get out of here. But there are a female variety of these enemies, and they are sorcerers. Because Japan, females are the weak sorcerer types. They're the ones that have more humanity and so on. Yeah, thanks, Japan. And there is a monster closet here. Miyazaki does like monster closets. Bloodborne is fucking rife with monster closets. All over the goddamn place. Let's go ahead and use these. But the Silver Pendant says that it is one of the ancient treasures of Anor Londo. That raises a lot of questions, actually. And I'm going to be coming back through this area again, so don't worry too much about what I'm missing here for those in the know. Gotta be careful not to fall off the edge. Ah, damn it. Oh well. He didn't drop anything anyways. I also have to be careful, especially if you're running at 60 frames per second, it's very easy to get stuck on, like, these stairs. So that's another thing to be worried about. But the Silver Pendant is one of the ancient treasures of Anor Londo. Presented to Artorias for facing the abyss. We'll talk more. I'm trying to get to it, where we can actually talk about it proper. But I wanted to point that out, that for some reason it is here. It's one of the ancient treasures of Anor Londo. I just wanted to establish that. Go, we haven't got to his dialogue yet, obviously, but he mentions that the dark will eventually win out. Like, he just straight up tells you that, you know, and there's a crystal lizard over there. I don't give a shit if he runs off or not. I'm not going to chase his ass. So, they are aware that the dark exists. They are aware that the light of the first flame is fading. They're aware that the Age of Fire is fading, or Go is at least. And if Go is aware of it, then surely everyone else is. Man, those things are really weird looking. Really not much to say about these. I'm kind of looking at it is interesting what the fabric looks like. The pattern that's on this thing. I really would have had liked this. It would have been nice to have an outfit that was like Oolacilian wear that looks like this, except it wasn't just tattered rags. To be able to have like these little bitty emblems and things on it, that looks pretty neat. I really like that. It's a shame we never got anything like that. Her face has like these weird little tendril things coming out of it too. Really strange. But they do sort of have the same look that Manus does in some ways. I'll look closer here in a second. I just want to get through this. Gold does mention that the dark eventually wins out, so they are aware of it. So that means that either this is happening at the end of the first era of fire, or at least it has happened after Gwyn linked the flame, and they are aware of it. But they are aware of it. And again, there are bonfires in Oolacile. So it has to be after the first outbreak of undead. And that may not make sense to you, but again, think about how the bonfires work. There are a bunch of bones in the bonfires. And that is because, and this, I'm going to have to run down here and take care of this as quickly as possible. These things are such fucking chodes. I'll just use my fucking shield. I don't even give a shit. Are you gonna... No? There we go. That's what I was waiting for. Amazing. Oh, I love you too, you fucking thing. This is like the worst room in this whole area. Really hate these things. I really don't have many of these. I need to go buy more of those. One of those things that I never really use them, so I don't think about them too much. But there are bonfires here, and the way that bonfires work is the bones of a human being. Because humans are the things that have the dark soul within them. So they make very good burning material. Because they're undead. You know, that's what those bones are. They're bones of the undead. So they technically are not really exactly living forever, but they are able to have souls inhabiting like their physical remains forever. So that's where the fire is actually coming from. Is that the humanity that you put inside of the remains that are down there are causing the soul that you put inside of it, that humanity, to burn, which is causing the fire, the Estus, coming from the first flame to erupt around it, which allows you to heal by sort of ingesting the Estus that the fire is creating. That's how bonfires work. But in order for a bonfire to exist, you have to have an undead. So if the undead curse has not happened yet, then you can't have that. which means that absolutely this has to either be within the first undead curse or the second one. And, goddamn controller. And, the curse itself, whenever the first flame is linked, we know that it just goes away. Because that's the whole point. You're undoing the curse that's afflicting humanity and, all that. And the reason that's one of the reasons why Gwyn linked the flame in the first place, because the undead were roaming around all over the place. And they had to put a stop to it. And that's one of the Church of Thurland. One of the reasons why the Church of Thurland came to existence is because they were given the task of going around trying to handle all the undead that were erupting all over the place. So this cannot have happened, really, after Gwyn has linked the flame immediately. Like, right after it happened, it could not have happened then, or else the bonfires themselves would not be able to work in the first place. And it would be interesting what exactly would happen to us, the player. Like, I'm undead right now. Let's take off my helmet. Like, I'm kind of hollowing because I have not renewed my humanity using, renewed my humanity. So what would have happened if I had gone back in time to a point at which the undead curse did not exist? Would I just fall down and die? Would I keep living for a set amount of time? Would I keep living forever until someone killed me but I wouldn't revive? Is, just interesting to try to figure out exactly how that works. Oh, damn it, it didn't preserve it. Oh, I hate it when it does that. Golem Helm. But like Anastasia says, link the fire, Dark Orb, link the fire so that the undead curse will be removed so that she can die as a human. Which does seem to straight up say, since she is from the Church of Thurland, or at least served under them, or served one of the kingdoms that were linked to them, as a result of what we saw of what happened to her, having her tongue cut out and so forth. She would be one to know. So whenever we link the first flame, that does cause the undead curse to stop working, which seems to imply that the bonfires also would stop working in the process, which is possible. It's not absolutely for certain, but it seems like it would. So, to me, I'm really leaving very heavily on the idea that this either is taking place, like, within the past few hundred years, or right after Gwyn, or right before Gwyn linked the flame, which means that Gwyn is still up and about and walking around in Adirlando. Now, here's where it starts to get even more complicated. Well, there's a couple other things to note. I first wanted to mention that in Oolacile there is no mention of demons or demon slaying. I mean, other than, like, our personal, the player's description of, like, the Sanctuary Guardian, but that's pretty much it. And whether that's in context of this timeline or not, it probably isn't, since it's kind of told from our perspective anyways. So, yeah, I kind of take that for what it is. But the problem starts now whenever we realize that the Undead Burg, as I pointed out in one of the prior episodes, it does not exist yet. And we'll talk about more about that in a second. I want to get this Undead Orb thing out of the way first. This is the reason why I didn't go too far in. I didn't want to go too far in, because I knew I would get distracted and have to start talking about various things. Dark Orb. This is our first evidence of dark magic, which you can only get in the DLC, which is overpowered as shit. Dark Orb. Abyss sorcery discovered by an Oolacile... So it's not Oolacilian. I like Oolacilian, but I'm just going to say it. Abyss sorcery discovered by an Oolacilian sorcerer on the brink of madness. So this was discovered by someone that had not completely turned into one of these things that we see on the ground. But it was discovered while that sorcerer was on the brink of madness. So apparently the way that the Abyss works is that they are slowly driving them insane. It works over time. Fire a giant dark orb. It makes it look like fire giant named dark orb. No, it's fire giant dark orb. In contrast to standard soul sorceries, Abyss sorceries are weighty because they're linked with physicality and inflict physical damage. Perhaps human souls, because of their humanity, produce sorceries with a more tangible presence. Because again, it is linked with the dark soul, the Dark Soul is all about physical life. And as we go further into this story of Oolacile, we'll learn that not only is it linked with physicality and, like, the body, the physical form, it is also linked with things like love and hate and envy, strong emotions like that, which we'll learn more about in a bit. I'd also wanted to point out here that these 2 chests are already opened, which does seem to imply that at some point there were other spells here, but they were taken. Why exactly someone would not take the 3rd one, I don't know. Maybe it's because they were batshit crazy. Or maybe because someone came and put it inside of here, who knows. It's weird that you can even take a spell in the first place and put it somewhere. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But, we'll walk out here briefly to show that this place is kind of collapsed all around us. And that's all that is. And there is one more little thing that I need to take care of. Let's step quickly out here. And that doesn't go anywhere special. And if you drop down here, it did lead. I kind of really wish that I could go over there, but there would be nothing over there. It just leads into nothingness. But you can backstab this lady. It seems like she doesn't even really notice you. But I don't want to backstab her. I don't want to send her corpse flying off. Turn around. Come walk towards me. Just for safety. Safety first, then murder. And she always drops this, the I'm sorry carving. Yay! I love carvings. They're so stupid. I love them. I can't wait to use these things. But this is, it does say this, it's an arch tree carving. These are made from arch trees. And as we know, arch trees are made out of stone, but they also transition into wood, especially if you're using magic. And it says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry carving. Head carved of arch tree, so these are like shapes of little bitty heads. Carved of arch trees by Go in his imprisonment. So he was imprisoned. So that's the reason why he's in that little thing. Implied, anyway. That's a big mess in itself. Go imparts an emotion to each and every completed carving, which helps him to achieve personal enlightenment. So even though he is imprisoned in there, that's what he spends his day doing, making these little bitty carvings and imbuing emotions inside of them. How exactly he does that? Shh, don't question it. When a head is disturbed, it speaks, reflecting the emotion conferred to it. So what's actually going on is that you're throwing this thing on the ground, which disturbs the tiny little bitty head. And whenever you disturb it, it says whatever the thing is that's inside of it. In this case, it's I'm sorry. This head says I'm sorry. Have another look. Isn't that an expression of atonement? You can't really see this very well. It doesn't look like much of anything, but it kind of looks like a crescent moon in a way. And you can kind of just barely make out a face. I'm not going to draw the fucking thing. You just have to imagine. If you can't see it, you can't see it. But the dark spot is not what I'm looking at. It's the light spot. That's the negative space is what I'm looking at. And there's like the top of the crescent and the bottom of the crescent. And there's like a nose in the middle, and right above the nose is like like a vague shape of an eye. And right below that is kind of a little frowny face. And this is all seen from the side. So if you can't see it, you can't see it, sorry. But I guess that's what they're pointing out.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I love these things so much. They're so dumb. A lot of people hate them. I love them. I fucking love these things. But whatever you throw them,
I'm sorry.
it does make them shatter, which is pretty interesting. You'd think that something made from an arch tree would be a lot more powerful. But anyways, I think that's enough of that. I want to go back to the bonfire so that I can talk about the rest of this nonsense in proper. Can't go back up that way, I don't think. Wait. Do I? Oh, I think that I do. Yes, I could not remember what the hell it was. But these are one of the few developer messages left on the ground. This one over here. Let there be lights. So the way to actually access this thing, you have to use light. Which makes sense because, you know, Oolacile. Oolacilians use light for pretty much everything. Which I guess would mean that this would not be a very well-protected wall. Like, it's a little secret area, but it wouldn't be very well hidden from other Oolacilians. So maybe this was something that was constructed afterwards. Like, after things started to go to shit, maybe this is the best way of hiding something. Which, since this is tied to a light-based sort of key mechanism, it does seem like it was made by an Oolacilian. And I forget what this is. Okay, yeah, it is the silver pendant. I thought that the one in there was actually one that I was thinking about. Okay, silver pendant. This is kind of an important thing as far as gameplay is concerned in regards to this area. But all the dark magic that is kind of OP as shit and goes really fucking fast. Travels a really long distance, especially when cast by enemies. You can use this and it causes it to be reflected away from you. Silver pendant. Silver pendant engraved with the crest of Artorias. One of the ancient treasures of Anor Londo. Presented to Artorias for facing the Abyss. So apparently at some point Artorias faced the Abyss and was awarded this from Anor Londo. It is interesting that this exists in the... If this is an ancient treasure of Anor Londo, maybe it's referring to it being ancient because we're finding it in the past. Or maybe it's ancient even now and it's something that's existed for a very long time. In which case, they've been fighting the Abyss for quite some time now. Which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's possible. It is possible. Effectively deflects the dark of the Abyss, especially in its magic forms. It is also possible that it was not straight up used for deflecting the Abyss. Maybe it was something that was used for deflecting the dark in the first place. If Gwen has always been paranoid about human beings because of their understanding of how light and dark works in this world, then it would make sense that this would have been developed either way, so I don't read too much into it as far as the timeline goes. But it is important to note that it was given to Artorias, so this was probably placed here by Artorias, which is pretty unusual. How did he know how to make a light-based doorway in the first place? Or maybe it was stolen from him and then someone hid it here. Who knows? But it seems more likely that someone stole it. Because, otherwise, if someone did not steal it, why would Artorias give it up? Because one of the reasons why he died is because he was seized by the Abyss. And if he actually did have this, that would have greatly assisted in his quest to defeat Manus. So, just saying that, you know, he didn't have it, it's kind of silly. I don't know why he would store it. So I lean on, I'm not on the fence about it. I pretty much straight up just think that it was stolen from him by someone that hid it here, and that he was not able to reclaim it for whatever reason. He was never able to actually find it. But yeah, Artorias did have this crazy-ass thing, and it was something that was given to him for facing the Abyss. So maybe he left with it, or maybe he faced the Abyss in New Londo and was awarded this because he was like, hey, that shit fucking hurts. Do we have something that we can actually use to defend against it? And Gwen was like, yeah, we have this thing, and he takes it with him to Oolacile. Maybe that's how it worked. Who knows exactly? Now, oh goodness, this is going to get even more complicated as I travel back to this thing. Is there anything else left up here? I don't think there is, really. Because I feel like this leads straight back down. I can't remember where this exit outs to, because I usually just jump back over. Yeah, okay, it just leads straight up back over here to the Chester spawn point. Okay, spend the rest of this time by the bonfire talking about this stupid timeline, because this is going to take a lot of explaining. And by the way, this is an elevator that we're going to be using later, in case you were wondering what this is. What this is, try jumping. No, don't try jumping. Alright, as I pointed out before, the Undead Burg has not been constructed yet. If you don't believe that, I guess we could walk our way back to the beginning of this area, or just warp back, actually. Actually, yeah, I just... hold on. Where did I see that? Yeah, I guess the easiest thing to just go back to the Sanctuary Garden? No. Yeah, okay, because the one that you're at does not appear. Alright, let's go back there and I'll show off the fact that the Undead Burg does not exist yet. And that is going to prove very, very problematic. It's going to prove very, very problematic because the Undead Burg does not exist yet. That means it has not been constructed. which means that someone is going to have to construct it, and very, very soon. Because the Undead Burg is fucking enormous. Like, we have been there. You travel through the whole damn thing. It is massive. It is absolutely massive. There are walls that are just as big as the ones in Anor Londo. And they're just all over the place. And remember, like, way back, one of the most infamous things I ever did, where I stopped and talked about a pile of bricks for, like, 15 minutes or something. I did that because, you know, I was talking about whether or not the place was still under construction or not. And, if it was still under construction, that seems to, you know, it makes sense that it would still be under construction. Because if you know anything about actually, like, building a city, like, of course the things in, these video games are completely outlandish in regards to, how big they actually, no, for a split second I thought that was a crystal lizard, are completely outlandish as far as how, massive they are. What are you doing? But in real life, like building the pyramids or something, this took hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, not maybe the hundreds, but it took a very, very long time. Usually, whenever things were commissioned to be constructed, they were not completed in the lifespan of the person that it was being constructed for. And often they had to store his body away and then put it inside where it was supposed to be much later on. But again, just to point this out, that's the area where Alvina sits. And over there is where we come from in regards to using the Crest of Artorias. Which means that the Undead Burg is right there. And we'll go down there and look at that real fast. If I can get my fat ass down there. I'm going to have to try to turn and look at my notes while we're talking about this. And this is where the area where we're going to be fighting Calavite, Special K. But it is also the area where we fight the Hydra and so forth. Like, this is where the little ladder that everyone has Super Smash Brother battles with in the Forest Covenant. They, you know, slide down there, and then they go across, and then, ooh, be careful. And there's, like, a bridge that leads across right there, and then there's another ladder that goes down, and the Hydra will be right there. So this place is filled up over time. Or actually, it looks like it's been hollowed out. Hear that guy up above me. So apparently at some point in history, there's like a crater that forms down here, and it becomes even worse than it is now. Which, if it's formed naturally over time from erosion, that would take a shitload of time. So it's probably something unnatural, actually. But yeah, that's where the Undead Burg is, over there. Like, even in, yeah, I know there's, like, trees and shit in the way, but we could still even see it there. So the Undead Burg does not exist yet, which proves it has a lot of problems associated with it. I'll look over my notes because I wrote all this down because I knew it would get complicated. But if bonfires cannot exist during an Age of Fire, the DLC either is going to take place before Gwen links the fire, or right before the game starts. Like, to me, it seems like there's nothing in between. Like, it has to be either right before it happened, or right before the events of the game of our timeline. God damn it. Little bastard. He must have seen me down there and then... Oh, wow. Probably not doing much damage. Yes, yes, come on. I'll just tank a few hits. Yeah, I just poised through it. Thought so. Fucking idiot. Did you give me an axe? No, you gave me Twinkling Time. Useless. Completely useless. What a fucking asshole. Anyways, things to consider. In the Undead Burg, throughout the entire Undead Burg, we see mother and child statues, right? We talked about before. And we see mother-child statues in New Londo. I pointed that out. Like, I used my binoculars, looked over, and we saw a mother and child statue. So they're down there, too. Here, oh, you fucking asshole. I knew there would be another one. I heard you. I fucking heard you. I'm just gonna poise through this shit. Apparently, I'm not gonna poise through this shit. Fucking assholes. They just cannot leave well enough alone. Well, that's both of them. There's only two of them up there. Yeah, just keep waddling your big elephant foot at me. Kind of an interesting elephant foot. Oh, well, we won't be talking about elephant feet today, though. But there are mother and child statues all over the place. And as we've seen, the oldest areas seem to have the child depicted as being younger, like a newborn baby. And as we proceed onwards, then it gets progressively older, and the oldest is in Adelanto itself, in the Painted World of Ariamis. And the Painted World seems to be the kind of most recent of the things that has been constructed. So it seems to me that there is a very long period of time going on in between those events, especially if it's like a god, in which case maybe they age slower than normal. Or maybe it's like there's a legend or something that's been passed down from generation to generation. But I guess it's also possible that all of it was built in the same time, and it was built so fast, which doesn't make any sense, but it was built so fast that they were actually able to construct new statues of a mother and child in the period of like 12 years or something, because the Painted World of Ariamis is like depicts like a little 12-year-old girl or something like that. It's holding her mother's hands, which, you know, is sort of implied to be Priscilla. So the mother and child statues are usually kind of interpreted as being Priscilla and her mother, and the mother is usually considered to be perhaps Velka because of the links, and we've been over this before. But the idea that all of the Undead Burg and the Painted World of Ariamis and all this stuff happened and was constructed within like a decade is completely ridiculous. But hey, maybe it was magic. So that's one way of looking at it. Another thing I'll point out is that the Undead Burg contains an image of Gwyn's son, the god of war, at the sunlit altar, which actually I can run back and even show that, give us something to do. It contains an image of his son at the sunlit altar, and you'll notice that the statue has been smashed to bits, and it has been smashed to bits because Gwyn and his son had a falling out, because the god of war lost the annals of history, and as a result, as punishment, the first son was sort of wiped out of history himself. Now, I will ask you, if Gwyn is not alive right now, like if he is already, well, he's alive, but he's, you know what I mean. If he's already linked the first flame, then that means that he could not, which means that that has already happened. That the whole annals of history and thing being lost, that would have already had to have happened, and he would have already had to have banished the god of war. So why exactly, if the Undead Burg does not exist now, would they have constructed the statue of the god of war, who they knew was considered to be a shame to Lord Gwyn, who does not exist right now, necessarily, because, he kindled the first flame. Why would they build it and then go through the trouble of smashing it? Unless that's ridiculous, and the timeline of Oolacile is actually before that happened. And then later, after the burg was constructed, or had begun construction, then Gwyn links the first flame, and where's the sunlit altar? There it is. At that point, Gwyn, casts him out and then says, "Destroy that shit, and now I will go link the first flame. Like, I'm leaving, be sure to get this done in the meantime." Like this. Like, why would they construct this and then go through the trouble smashing it? It doesn't make any sense. And of course, you can see how fucking big all of the Undead Burg is. And, let's see. There's the walls of Anorlando. And, actually, Darkroot, you can actually see this, like this tower, for example, from the area where you pick up the Eastern armor that I was trying to show way back whenever I was getting pissed off at all the things that kept attacking me. So you can see it pretty much everywhere. There's no excuse. The Undead Burg does not exist in the past that we were just in. And that statue, you know, again, why would they construct it after Gwen had already expelled him? Maybe that's just a plot hole. Who knows? But that is more evidence to that. Another thing. Black Knights. We encounter Black Knights in the Undead Burg. The Black Knights were created whenever they had fought the Bed of Chaos. Not before. Like, there were only Silver Knights. The Black Knights did not exist until the Bed of Chaos. So, the Black Knights can't wander around in an Undead Burg that does not exist yet. So that seems to be more evidence that the Undead Burg was created afterwards, and the Bed of Chaos thing, that happened afterwards, and Gwen linking the flame happened afterwards. And also, the Undead Burg contains one of the Bells of Awakening, which is right up here, at the Undead Parish that's past this door, and past this asshole. So, oh, this gets so complicated. The Burg has one of the Bells of Awakening. It can't contain a Bell of Awakening if it does not exist yet. So the bells would have to have been constructed by someone else completely different. Like, Gwen would not have been the one to commission them, which it seems like he would have been. You know, because that's the whole point of having the Bells of Awakening. Although it's possible it could have been Gwendolyn. But either way, the other bell is down in Los Isleth. And not only is it down in Los Isleth, it is past the domain of Quelaag. So, did someone sneak past Quelaag and build the Bell of Awakening and the mechanism that you pull to use the bell after the Bed of Chaos shit had happened? Maybe she just wasn't there. Maybe she just pissed around for a few centuries, giving them time to build it, and then moved in later. It's possible, or maybe it's fucking stupid. But anyways, all these things piled together. Like, the bonfire is working in the first place. The Undead Burg containing the image of the God of War that has been broken since. The Black Knights wandering around inside the Undead Burg. The mother and child statues that we see all over the place, and them kind of increasing in age as time goes on. The fact that the Undead Burg itself, like, you can probably maybe I can see the pile of bricks from here. Like, the pile of bricks I was looking at was, like, right there. The stupid fucking tower's in the way. Oh, damn you, tower. Wonder if I can... I'm determined to go see that pile of bricks again. The pile of bricks that are just kind of all over the place, implying that, the Burg was kind of still under construction. Or at least was, under deconstruction or something. That's also possible, I guess. It's not rendering down there. Damn it! Damn you! But it is down there. The pile of bricks is down there, believe you me. The Bells of Awakening existing in the first place, all of that seems to point to the idea that the timeline of Oolacile that we are in is taking place before Gwen even links the fire in the first place. So that was the conclusion that I reached until they complicated it even more with this. Producer Daisuke Uchiyama, in a Forbes interview, said during the DLC's release, the story itself is going to take place in the past. The player will be dragged into the past 300 years, back when Artorias was not a legend but actually existed. Well, thanks a lot for fucking that up. Because, one, that doesn't even make any sense for all the reasons that we have been over before. And most of it is tied to the fact that the Undead Burg exists in the first place. Which we've been over before. Just the idea that it's 300 years ago does not make any sense whatsoever. So why exactly they took that stance and why he has said that, I don't know. But if they intended for it to be 300 years ago, then hey, who am I to argue, right? But at the same time, I just wanted to point out that it does not make any sense that it would be 300 years ago. Now let's go down here and look at my precious pile of bricks. Oh god, yeah. I fucking love being in the first area of the Undead Burg. Always a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun. Now, let's see if I can find one, actually. I'm gonna find that fucking pile of bricks. I know there's one over here, so I'll just go this way. So, logically they're wrong. And I don't mean to imply that they're wrong about the thing that they made, that they intended. I know what they intended, obviously. They intended it to be 300 years. And even if you go to some of the wikis, they say it's 300 years in the past, because that's what the producer said. So that's what people operate under. But logically, it would have to, like, the only time and place it could possibly have taken place in would be before Gwen linked the first flame. But during the first age of undead, whenever everything first started popping out, but before it was restored. Like, here we go. Here's some of the bricks. Oh, yeah. I fucking love that. But yeah, obviously, it's dilapidated, but at the same time, these bricks have been carefully piled together, which seems to imply that either they were repairing them, or they were still under construction. And since so many things here, since it looks like it's pretty much completed, I would take the stance that these are things that were left over. But if they were left over, it seems to be implied that the vast majority of the Undead Burg, pretty much all of it, was completed. And this was kind of just left there for, like, maybe a decade or two because, you know, people are lazy like that. And just kind of left it sitting around. And that's when all the shit started going wrong. That would be my best guess about that. But the whole burg was built in 300 years? That doesn't make any sense. And plus there's the old church and the new church. Like, there's the undead parish church. Which, by the way, the way that that's labeled in the original Japanese, documentation, is it seems to imply that it is the church for the undead. So it's possible that there were two different things, which seems to also imply that that church was built... That church, where the hell is it? Over there. Over here. That church over there was built during the Age of Undead. And that it was constructed for that purpose. For the undead to have a place for them to go, while the quote-unquote normal people were kind of used the place where Blacksmith Andre now resides. And that used to be the real church. But there were two that were constructed. So that's another thing to have to worry about. The old church was there, but the new church was the one that was built with the bell in it. And here's some more stuff to worry about. Sin's Fortress. Sin's Fortress is sort of implied to have been retrofitted, and the Oolacilians kind of may have been the ones that were constructed what Sin's used to be before it was made into the fun house it is today, because of the reasons that I went over earlier on, because of the construction, the way it's so similar. Gravelord Nito has been where he is for a very long time, yet the only way there is to go through the Undead Burg. So maybe there used to be just like some shitty roads that led to him at some point in history. Kind of the same thing with the Archtree that people supposedly emerged out of, and Izalith itself. Izalith has existed for a long time, but there was no way to there unless you went through the Burg, which did not exist. So apparently there was like some basic infrastructure that existed prior to the Undead Burg actually being constructed. Big stupid Great Shield Bash, it's so dumb. And again, like more construction materials, wood and stuff all over the place. So that's another thing to have to worry about. The idea that someone invaded Quelaag's domain and built the bell right under her nose is completely ridiculous. Or the idea that the spiders didn't do anything for 700 years and slowly expanded out is kind of less silly, but still kind of dumb. The Firelink itself is another thing. Like, Firelink Shrine, that's where the Gwen links the first flame. That is an extension of where the Undead Burg is. So are you saying that that place has also not been constructed yet? Like, that's another problem. And I imagine most of you by this point have kind of just chalked this up to the, I get it, Plague, I get it. It's a mistake on their part. And yeah, it is just a mistake on their part. But I really wanted to cover this as cleanly as possible to make it clear what the possibilities are and how fucked up this happens to be. I did want to go down there, that's right. But the idea that Firelink has not been constructed yet, because Firelink is where, like its name, of course, in English it's Firelink Shrine. But in Japanese, it's something akin to ritual ground of, like ritual ground of fire or something. I can't quite remember exactly. But it's something akin to that. But that's where the kiln is. And that has been there for a very, very long time. So, the idea that Gwen went and linked the flame before that entire pathway was built in the first place, and all the, like, everything is also dilapidated. Like, there's so many things in the world that are obviously completely dilapidated, that have collapsed from eons of disuse. And the idea that the burg itself was built within the last, not even the past 300 years, because obviously there's no construction at all happening in Oolacile. Like, the undead burg and everything would probably have been constructed in the past 200 or something years. And not only that, it would have to be constructed during an era of which the undead are roaming around, which means that they were a problem during the construction of this in the first place. So, shit, like, the whole undead burg would have gone to shit, like, instantly. Like, after just a period of just a few years. So none of that making it, the only way it makes any sense at all is if all of that was constructed immediately preceding Gwen linking the first flame, which means that the Oolacile area that we are in, this is another pile of bricks that I was thinking about, that the area of Oolacile that we are in has to have happened before Gwen links the first flame. That's the only way that you can really look at it. I mean, you can jump through a lot of hoops to try to explain it away, but that's the gist of it. So, either the producer that said that is just wrong, or the more likely explanation is that they thought that it made sense, but they didn't think about it anywhere near as much as I do, which, you know, I don't blame them. And, like, that's the most reasonable explanation. Or that there's just a bunch of plot holes or something. So, that's the timeline. That's why it is so fucking complicated to people. If you ever wonder why people don't talk about it, that's why. Because it is such an enormous mess. It is just fucking nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I guess I'll make myself human and be invaded instantly. I'm trying to kindle this as quickly as possible. And if I do get invaded, I'll just get the shit kicked out of me, because this is not really build made for PvP. And at the same time, my internet... Oh, internet's even being disconnected right now. Fantastic. Even with that considered, my internet is not great, so I'm not good in PvP in the first place. But there's a couple more questions that I wanted to go over real fast. Mongolold... Not Mongoloid, but Mongolold says, I assume that Elizabeth's reference to Artorias not having a trace of dark is also in regards to his personal character, more than just the mechanics of the various souls. He seems to be a Lancelot archetype of a pure knight that eventually falls due to his pureness. I think that's why Chester calls him colorless and later is entertained by Taurus's death. Chester's just a dick who doesn't care for goody two-shoes. Yep, I kind of just have been over that before, but that's another idea. And she eventually does leave. So I should have kicked her while I had the chance. Damn. But his little thing remains here for the rest of time. I can't go back and get their armor, though. So there is that. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. It does seem to imply that Artorias was someone of very great character. And actually, losing him was what was so traumatic about all that. Zen Game says, just two little and fun questions that may or may not shatter the world of Dark Souls. Mainly the main game. What do they eat and what do they drink? One of the I just wanted to kind of briefly touch on this, but one of the most famous things about writing that people say is whenever you are like creating characters and designing worlds, one of the things that you need to ask is, what do they eat? What do they drink? Even though it's something that's completely not really pertinent to anything that you really need to talk about in regards to the story that you're telling, it is very important to know these things as a writer. Like, I was streaming the other day in Picardo, and people were asking me all the questions about the world that I'm kind of designing for the event that I'm going to hold next year. And, I was explaining all these things that I know good and well will never ever make it into the base game. But they're things that I know because I know how the world works and I know where people get their food and how all this other stuff works and whatnot. And then, goodness. And that's one of the things that you have to think about. But to actually answer your question directly, it's not explained. Because Miyazaki obviously does not really think about things anywhere near that amount. Which is kind of one of the limitations, his limitations as a writer. I know it's very common to suck Miyazaki's dick, but he does have limitations. He's not like a master or anything like that in regards to writing. He does a few things very cleverly. One of the things that I praise him for is keeping things open, unless, of course, he's making sequels, in which case he ruins them by making sequels, but that's another thing entirely. But he does things well, and he does things poorly. And one of the things that he does poorly is not considering all the factors of all the things that are going on all over the place. Because part of that is that he doesn't really have the time to worry about such things, to his credit. So I'm not going to rip into him too much about things like that. So there's that. I just wanted to make sure to mention that, because that goes hand in hand with the idea of all this stuff not making any sense. It's a video game, guys. And sometimes just because they're rushed out the door and stuff, they don't really have time to sit down and develop these things. Like, I've developed my setting for, like, years now. Like, the exact setting, probably only about 1 year. But the concepts that I'm using, I've been developing for, like, a lifetime. So I can't really blame Miyazaki too much for that. And one last little question or comment for Lumc. I guess it's not really this more just an account name than a name. Says Priscilla doesn't turn herself invisible. She throws magic shit in your eyes. She does something to you, not to herself. That's one way of looking at it. I'll have to look at that later on to see whether or not that's actually true or not. But it's possible that she actually does something to you to conceal herself from you rather than making herself invisible, which would be a much better explanation for what exactly the hell is going on in regards to her. But last thing we're going to do here is we're going to look at the Artorias' shit, and then that'll be it. Hymn of Artorias, the Abyss Walker, one of Gwyn's four knights. The death of the helm's owner can be surmised from the corrosive dark of the abyss, and the musty azure blue tassel. The tassel! That's what it was! The tassel! I could not think of what the damn name was. It's a tassel. Once a symbol of pride and glory. I really like that azure blue look that they have. It's a shame that we never... Like, you can buy this. The armor looks absolutely ridiculous on you. I think there's... That's weird. The musty... Because this one, I guess, supposedly doesn't have cloth on it, so it's not tattered. Musty. Tattered. And this is the death of the owner commits the prison which has compromised their protective utility. And if you think about these are actually just straight up just Silver Knight gauntlets and Silver Knight leggings for the most part. They're a little bit different. But the dark has eroded them away so they look a little bit different. They look really shitty. Like, these make your legs look extremely thin. Let's grab these real fast. Good thing I had a shitload of souls just lying around.
I have this.
Yeah, shut up. Okay. Let's quickly try to equip this. I pray that they are all in the same area. And I kind of remember that they're all down here, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. But again, Artorias' little thing with him being the Abyss Walker, his legend being passed down and whatnot, a lot of that does come... What the hell? I missed it. A lot of that does come from the legend that we are actually writing, that he ends up taking credit for, sort of posthumously. But also is because of his reputation from him being in New Londo, and from people like Ingward passing down that legend. So this does just straight up just turn you into Artorias. And I don't have his thing yet. It does turn you into Artorias. You can make out your own face just kind of vaguely through this. Oh, that looks really weird and creepy. Especially this is not even like your real face. Like, I'm hollow right now. I should not look like this. That's really kind of unsettling in its own right, isn't it? But obviously, it's gotten really shitty over time. I really wish that there was a non-tattered version of this, because that would look fantastic. I don't expect it to you know, because the theme of Dark Souls, of course, is that things are wearing down and whatnot. So I don't expect it to be that great or anything, but it would have been nice to have something that looks a little bit better than this. But as you can see, take a look at the arms. If I can figure out where the Silver Knight's probably in the middle. Ah, for God's sakes. Silver Knight, okay. Just try to look at it. Yeah, you can't really look at it through the camera thing. This is one of the things I love about Dark Souls 2, is that it moves. I know it kind of obscures the menu, but you can actually see what you're equipping. Oh well. But if you equip this, you notice they look exactly the same, except this is kind of a little bit shinier. And his leggings, the leggings are a little bit different, I think, but not by much. As you can see, because it's been corroded away, they're really, really shitty looking. And, Silver Knight leggings. And this is the whole version of it. So if you want to look a little bit more, I guess, less garbage, the way to do it is to equip Silver Knight leggings and armor. But that's that. I guess that's all I wanted to go over in regards to all the timeline shit and Artorias for the time being. It is a mess, isn't it, guys? It is a big fucking mess. And, I really wish that you would fucking leave. I really wish that you would go away.
Then let, as promised,
He will not leave. I've gotten everything. I've talked to you for so fucking long.
even in this
Treacherous land skills are unmatched. He's a true hero. Another reason, of course, this is your own conceit. Own conceit, isn't it? Yes. Now leave. Leave. Go away. I've beaten so many bosses. God's sakes. I ache for the day that you die. Ache for it. Anyways, that's for this particular episode of Dark Souls. I'm sure that there will be many more adventures to be had in regards to trying to make sense out of the timeline and everything, as people complain about that. But there's one last thing I wanted to show you in regards to his armor set. And this is kind of one of the reasons why people don't really use it that often. It looks nice now, doesn't it? And you might notice that we actually look a little bit too tall. That's because we are. If we lose the headpiece, our head kind of sinks into our torso, and we look absolutely ridiculous. Oh yeah, I forgot that it wasn't hollow, so actually that was kind of normal looking. But anyways, that's enough of that shit. It just looks so fucking silly. And it's going to look even stupider whenever I get Gog's armor. Oh, that's going to be amazing. Getting his armor and making the stupidest looking cosplay possible. But anyways, that's enough of that. I will see you guys next time for more adventures to be had in running my mouth about things that don't make any sense. See you guys next time.